children, and I'm going to have 18. And I'll have number 18 in April. So yeah, so times change and things change and people grow just like our gardens grow and expand and with and I'm going to talk about the magical aspect of plants, but I just have to share, recent findings. And so my we're at the store here. I have a shop here at Six Nations. It's called Ancestral Voices Healing Center. So here I have, medicinal herbs and crystals, and we also have practitioners, and we have a wide variety of things to help us on our healing journeys. And so also am one of the founders of Grandmother's Voice. And so we all work hard to bring awareness to our environments and also to what we can do to encourage everyone to think about the land. So I got this email from my friend, and she showed a picture of burning ice, and then the ice turned black and it smelled nasty. And so of course my daughter, she came in and she tried it. She says, "Mom, look." And as she lit that ice, boy, did it have a foul smell to it, and it was all like black and yucky. And I'm thinking to myself, um, when I went to feed the dog, I looked in the bowl, and there was ice that isn't ice that I was used to seeing growing up. It was more clumpy and heavy, and it just wasn't ice. And so I was thinking of the plants and the medicines and what is going on with our land and our environments. And so things are shifting and things are changing in a big way. And we have to pay attention and be aware of these things, because if we continue to ignore, we're not going to have these resources available to us. And that is part of the prophecy, where we're going to start to go hungry because things aren't going to grow, and we're going to have an abundance of worms and things that won't allow our medicines to grow and to help us sustain our life here. And so I just wanted to start with that because it's something that is like really haunting me or bothering me right now, because I just remember ice, old ice, where, if you lit it, it would just simply melt. But now it's got that black smell and that black tar. And so, of course, we could associate part of that with the Ohio spill, but we also can associate that to what we've been doing over the last few decades, and we really have to pay attention now to how we're treating our soil, how we're treating our environment, so that we can continue to have these Halton Environmental Network workshops, because we'll be able to have the beautiful gardens to talk about. And so we have to think about, how do we save the lands? What do we do to bring back the life into our lands? So I'm going to cover some of that as I speak. And I just feel really, I guess, emotional sometimes when it comes to thinking about all the changes I've seen in my 65 years here. There was a time when we could drink water from the well, and there was no issue. And then I was trying to think about how long ago was that when that changed. And so as a young girl, that's what we knew. But as I grew older, I forget at what point it changed so that we weren't able to use the waters in the gardens or the waters anymore. So the talk I'm going to present today is kind of about magical medicine. And so we're going to use that too as a background for what we can do in our gardens to bring back the life to our gardens. We're always up against challenges, and we as people, we've had to adapt many times to many situations, and our environment also does the same. So as far as, from a scientific view, every year the medicines don't carry the same amount and the same type of constituents. It's always fluctuating, always changing with, the new environments. And so we as people are are also conditioned to change and to grow in that way. But what magic does is it's a source. It's kind of like our dreams. And it's a way to bring us back in line with like the universe. It helps us connect. There's a source, and we all name that source differently, but there's a source that feeds us, and always remember that life is like a dream, and we collectively are its dreamers, and we require vigilance in order for the magic to happen. So we have our rituals, we have ceremonies, and um, we help one to align by reenacting, I guess you would call, the beauty of spirit. So as we do our ceremonies, so I attend our longhouse ceremonies as an example, and every year we do our ceremonies, but every year there's something different about every ceremony. There's no two ceremonies that are the same. And I understand this reenacting the beautiful manifestation of spirit, because there's something so magical that happens as we partake and we dance and we give thanks, and we come collectively together, and we share this need to honor all that is around us. So I just wanted to like kind of start with that thought. So what is like magic? So if you take a plant and you light, so say it's a smudge and you light the smudge, well, there's something about the solidness of that plant, and somehow it manifests into, kind of like a spiritual form. And I remember sitting in a ceremony one day, and the smudge was going, and and it was really nice and cloudy in the space, because we were talking some really important things. And I remember this woman coming up to me. She says, "Gail," she says, "as the smoke was as coming," she says, "it turned into horses, and it was going right towards you." And she says, and it was such a beautiful thing. And so many times we've had visions like in the smoke, and we can see things. And it's also like that with the fog. The fog is that this mysterious, magical energy as well. And you can see a lot of things in lots of shapes. And the fog has a very important place in our environments as well. And so the fog is really important to, the magic of our gardens. So the thing to consider, I guess, is that when we ask something, we also have to know that we have to give something, because everything is of balance and everything is like an exchange. So if we're asking for something from that spiritual realm, then in order to do that, what we have to do is purify ourselves. So that's why we use things like smudge and words and powers and prayer like that, because what we have to do is we have to lose our scent, and everyone knows we all carry our own unique individual scent, and we have to replace it with the fragrance of the plant world. So by that I mean, but by that I mean, what we have to do is it. What we have to do is we have to replace when we replace that fragrance, and we bring on that plant world scent. Then what we're doing is we are calling in that essence of that spirit world. So we look at our plant medicines as mediators. So we're kind of like the mediator between the humans and that supernatural realm. So just that transformation of watching that plant, change from one form to the other, is kind of like what happens between us and that realm in real terms. So these are all just things that just to keep in mind. So now it's garden magic time. So the air is warm, the trees are budding, and spring is whispering, "Hey, new beginning, new season." And we know that there's something that's making us really anticipating, getting into that garden. And what we do is we kind of look and we envision, and we try to improve or change, or make it feel different every year by working with what we know. And we're also looking at what we might want to add or create, or take away from our garden. So we're doing the visioning of these new gardens. And so, like, think about that. So where does that vision come from? Where does that vision for our beautiful, garden come from? And so energetically, we have to think of our ancestors, and we have to know that our ancestors are guiding us through this process. And so, that could be considered, a magic in itself, because we're getting this information, our thoughts are connecting to something and someone, or something. And so we have to, like, take that, and we have to go with it. So we go with it and we say, wow, what is it that my garden taught me last year? And what am I going to do to I guess, create something again that is a teaching garden. So you get inspired because you really want to create that magical space. And the purpose of that garden is to make you feel comfortable, feel safe, and to feel at peace. So what is the definition of magic? So I kind of looked this up, and so um, one of the dictionaries said. So magic, the power of apparently influencing the course of events by using mysterious or supernatural natural forces. So the use of means such as charms or spells believed to have supernatural power over natural forces. An extraordinary power or influence seemingly from the supernatural, or something that seems to cast a spell, like some type of enchantment. So as I was, like, reading the definition to what is magic, I thought about our everyday life, and everyday life we're connected to that same thought. Every day we have the opportunity to experience magic, and what magic comes, and the forms magic comes from, is in many ways. So it's kind of like even taking a walk in the woods, or just kind of like taking some nice deep breaths. Like every day we have that opportunity to, I guess, to coexist and to understand and to work through and to work with all the different sources, I guess, that could be termed that plant magic. So if you clean your space, like with a smudge as an example, like I used earlier, and you clean your space, and you clean and you create that physical space, that's the most powerful form of magic that there is, because it's you being able to change your environments and to create something that you can work with or live within, and that you can feel comfortable in. So you see the smoke, and you believe that something that you can't see is being lifted and cleared. But in whether you believe it or not, how you feel after is lighter, and your mind feels like, oh, so much more relaxed, just simply by doing that process of that smudging, of just feeling that smoke cleaning and clearing and lifting and cleansing. And of course, all plant spirits, all plant medicine, they have different roles within that. So we have different medicines that do different things. Some protect, some clear, some bring in good spirits. So we have, like, all these different things that smudging does and helps us with. So imagine now you're sitting by a tree and you breathe. And as you breathe, all of a sudden there's this comfort, or there's a sense of peace. And it's kind of like the tree's giving you this beautiful hug. And you notice it especially when you are feeling low or depressed, or, lonely, then it's really interesting, because then as you just sit there, it's like you just feel so much better, because there's this invisible hug that seems to be um, helping you to get to that place of happiness. So one way that we, as Indigenous people of the land, one thing that we do is we know that we're not to carry the burdens of the past. We know that life is short, and we only have a short time to be here and to, I guess, release what it is that we don't need to carry. So I was in, um, where was I? New York City, and we had this big event that was transpiring. And one of the elders that are no longer here, someone that I admired and someone that helped me on my path, all of a sudden he came, and what he did, he was dressed in his regalia, and he said, as you walk, he says, inhale and bring the energy up from the earth. And as you exhale, see it disperse among you, like just see it disperse. And that was extremely valuable, because we were told that that is the way that we have to release what we don't need to carry. And we're all responsible for our own healing and our own way of letting go. We all need to find what works for us. So these are kind of like things that I'm just sharing, because this is what our plants and our medicines and those that we work with in the spirit world. This is how we create those beautiful, wonderful feeling gardens that we create. So one thing that we're also taught, and this is really I guess the bottom line, is we have to have a good mind when we are approaching our gardens. So we aren't supposed to plant if we're not feeling well, or we're not in a good space. So if we've had an argument, or if something is bringing us down, and then we're not really supposed to bring that energy into our garden. So during those times, we're taught to figure out a way to let that stuff go, and then we can get on to I guess the business of being that creative aspect to our gardens. And one way that the plant spirits really respond is by our songs. So we have different songs that are sung when we are planting our gardens. And so for us, we have ceremonies that start right at that very beginning. So we have the exchange of the seeds. We give thanks for that, being able to share our seeds. We have time for uh, planting our gardens. We have time for harvesting our gardens, and all in between as the gardens grow. There are different things that we do, and we sing and we honor these plant spirits, because that's exactly what they are. There's these plant spirits that are going to respond to us, because we're not disconnected from that spiritual force as human beings. We're equal to nature. We're not above or beyond. So these songs, what they do is they appease the spirits of the medicine, and what they do is they help our gardens to grow. And if we nurture our gardens with song and in the proper way, our gardens flourish. And I think we all know that. And there are times when those plant spirits, they will hide themselves. So say someone has a bad intention and they need a medicine to do so, because we can't be naive and think that also plants can be used in a negative way. But sometimes those plant spirits will hide, so whoever is looking to do something in a negative way won't be able to find them. And so I've always found that very valuable, like in teaching and understanding that they certainly somehow create their own cover. So in our gardens, or in nature, we do have those plants that are able to hide things, and that in itself is a form of magic that usually doesn't get acknowledged. So you add stones, and then you add personal things to your garden, and what happens? Wow, all of a sudden there's life, and there's life that grows right in front of you. It manifests, and and you created it, so you have this really deep relationship to your garden. So I remember traveling to Ecuador, and they were talking about the ways that they still work with their gardens. So the gardens are planted by the women, and each woman has her personal space, and within that space, she puts her personal stones or personal touches, to that garden, and that creates that magic for her, and for also for who the medicine garden is benefiting. And so, but it also creates that magical element as well. So when you think about that, just think of, wow, I had this feeling that I should put this in my garden or that in my garden. And yes, it's because our ancestors are directing us to do so. I also look at gardens as the regeneration of our ancestors. So what I mean by that is the year before or centuries before, there have been life that has been lost over time. The garden has changed so many times, and the remnants of all of that, both human and plant and animal, have kind of like fallen right there. And so then when you regenerate that, well, it's kind of like our stirring ashes ceremony that we do in January. So what we do is we turn over the ashes of our ancestors so that they can continue to guide us and direct us and to be with us. And so that's kind of what the garden does. It's kind of like that regeneration of our ancestors, both human, plants, and animals, that help us to continue life. So the soil is not just soil. The soil has a lot of spiritual connection to it as well. So we all know that there are certain places and certain things that we can plant in certain areas of our garden. So we have, this garden, this grows better here, and this grows better over there. And so we always have to be like looking at those things. And I remember the first time that I planted tobacco years ago, our sacred tobacco. So what I had done is, in my mind, I was trying to rationalize what is the best way to do this. And so one of the teachings, of course, at the time was, well, it's time to plant tobacco or get your tobacco ready when you start to see the dogwood flowering. And so when you see the dogwood flowering, then it's time to go find mayapple, and then you use that mayapple, and you can soak your seeds, and then you can get ready to, plant your tobacco within, a time there. And so I did all this, and then so I thought, okay, so I'm thinking of the tobacco fields that I saw as I was growing up. We would go down areas of Delhi and all that tobacco belt area, and I would look at the soil that they were planted in, and so I knew that tobacco really liked a sandy soil. So I thought, and the tobacco seems to be in full sun. So I thought, okay, so I'm gonna plant some tobacco in my garden, and I do have sandy soil, and so I planted some tobacco. But there was this other area, I just put some tobacco seeds down, and this area had morning sun and evening shade, and the tobacco grew so much better in that morning sun and evening shade. And I was just like, wow, this was interesting, because it was just kind of like one of those things that I learned. And so the more that you plant the garden, the more that you understand, how to make your garden better and better every year. So the purpose of planting our garden is kind of like to create our own sanctuary. So in our homes, we have our personal items, and some of us may or may not have this little altar or this little place that we put our sacred things on, and we call it, letting them cook, or letting them be, or letting them work together, helping them, helping us to manifest whatever it is. Well, our garden is exactly that. It's our sanctuary. It's a place where we can feel peace. We can feel that our thoughts, like they're expanding. We can connect with higher beings, and the beautiful thing about a garden is the fragrance. Oh my gosh. I mean, as soon as those plants, they start to flower, oh my gosh, you can just walk through there and inhale, and there's something really magical that happens when, you're in the aromery. You're in the aroma of, those medicines. So one of those beautiful flowering uh, bushes that are really special to me is that of the lilac. And so we know lilacs are one of the very first medicines that we see in the spring. And as a child, my grandmother had uh, lilac bushes around, and I really didn't know at the time that a lot of times they planted lilac bushes over old outhouses. And anyways, we had beautiful lilacs, and my grandmother was always one to bring in flowers from her gardens. So there was always flowers, it seemed, when we would go to visit, grandma, and it was always such a nice feeling. So that essence of the lilac really brings me to the essence of my grandmother in those times of childhood, and being able to, like, relate something really beautiful to that medicine. And it's like that rose, the rose, how beautiful that is. And even though it has thorns, and there's a whole spirit discussion about the thorns and the beauty of that medicine and all that can transpire. But there's something really special about how that fragrance really creates that very personal and that beautiful connection. So if fragrance is a medicine, and flowers create that fragrance, and we have to look at ourselves as well. So we look at us as a newborn baby. First we're in our mother's womb, and we're being nurtured, and then all of a sudden, when we come into this world, and we're like that flower. We're like that beautiful spirit medicine that has come from the Creator. And right then and there, we know that um, it's a gift, because how this beautiful being came into existence, it's a miracle if you really look at that. And it's like planting our gardens. How does that little seed bring forth life, and how does that create that beautiful image, and how does it create that beautiful um, scent, and everything that our flowers create. So again, it relates back to that relationship with, I guess, the divine. How we are miracles, and we are that magic, because it's like, wow, magic just pops 9 months later, into our beautiful human self. So when we think of, I guess, that world where we're connected to that fragrance and medicine, we think of what we might call a thin place, or a place of high vibrational energy. And basically, when I think of that, I think of portals, or I think of the essence, or what is going on between the worlds of our physical self and our spiritual self. There's this fine line where things can shift and change, and create. It's like, how do we overcome things that we overcome? Again, it's that same thought. There's something that happens that automatically is able to change things. So, whether we're in one of our special places, where, we're feeling that we're in between worlds, we are kind of, always thinking about what it feels like. So it seems like time slows, We feel a sense of spiritual or something bigger, something beyond ourselves, when we're in our gardens, when we're in those woods. And we believe that we are experiencing some kind of manifestation of a being or an entity. We feel that we're commuting or are communing, I guess, with the spirit of nature, but we feel like really strong. There's something that really empowers us in the natural world. And just this feeling alone of being in our gardens and being in our wooded areas helps us forget about all the issues that we're facing in our daily life. So I'm going to talk about a few, I guess, a few medicine plants and how they can be used in that magical way to change something in our environments. So I remember a few years ago. So in our culture, we talk a lot about, well, we call it bad medicine, but it's just medicine, and then we have to have these experiences of good and bad so that we really can understand both sides of things. So I remember I was at my friend's place, and somebody had tried to put what we call love medicine on me, and I was upset about that, and so my friend and his wife, they were they were older. They were older, and as I was, spewing, I guess, a little bit, my friend's husband said, "Well, if I could have you, I would do that too." And I go, "What did you say?" He says, "Yes, if I was 30 years old, younger, and I had the opportunity, he says, I might think about doing that too." And I said, "Why would you think about doing that?" And so then I was reminded of a teaching I had had from some of our South American relatives, and they believe that here we're too controlled, and and so we don't have that freedom of being able to, I guess, create what it is that we really need. So what they believe is that you should be able to create what it is that what your world looks like. And so when the that teaching was like being told to me, it's like, okay, so if someone sees you and they're attracted to you and they want to have you, well then what's wrong with creating you in their life? And I mean, there's good and bad. So what they'll do is they'll hire somebody to create that possibility, and it will work as long as you don't find out about it. But it's about taking your creating what it is that you want and creating it is what might best suit you. And of course, there's the dark side to that as well. But we're not going to get into what that dark side may be. But I'm just letting you know that there are ways that you can bring different things into your life. So one of the things, I guess the first one that I'll talk about a little bit is angelica root. So if you look at angelica, isn't it beautiful? I mean, it's tall and it's like it's showy, and angelica root has the ability to surround you with protection. So think about that. If you look at that beautiful seed pod and you look at the height, sure, you can see that. You can actually feel, that it can surround you with protection. And the other thing that it helps to do is it helps to release you from negative thinking. And of course, it attracts abundance, because if you look at the flower heads of angelica, there's many flower pods all on one umbel. So you look at that plant, and how did somebody come up with that? How do we know that these things do what it says? Well, it's called communication. So what you can do is you can take that plant and you can work with that plant. So you can sit with that plant, you can diet that plant, you can meditate with that plant, and the plant will begin to communicate how it acts in the natural world. So that's where some of this comes from. So Angelica root is actually thought to be effective from negative thoughts, things like misfortune, things like peeping Tom. So it kind of protects your environment. So in order to get the magic from this plant, what you do is you just take a pinch of it and you kind of like grow it kind of like around in your gardens. But if you take a pinch and you put some like in your garden, what it does is it repels negativity. But the name is Angelica, and so Angelica is also associated with that angelic realm. And so it brings good fortune, and as you scatter it around your home or scatter it in the corners, you can also burn it as incense. And so you can burn it like a smudge. And what it does is it helps with purification. But it's also used for grief. And we know that that's something that a lot of us have a hard time dealing with. And part of the reason we have a hard time dealing with grief is because grief is now a business. And so grief is a business where you're supposed to like pay to rent a funeral home, and you're supposed to pay to buy this $10,000 coffin. You're supposed to pay for the newspaper announcements, and you're supposed to, pay for them doing all of the funeral arrangements. And then you're supposed to pay for, the, excuse me, you're supposed to pay for the counseling and all of that comes with it. So this has turned into what we might call a business, and as opposed to what death and grief really is. And it's just a transition, a transformation. It's a magic that you associate with the another world. Oh, excuse me. I think I need a little cup of water. So in order to use Angelica for grief, what you do is you just pour a little bit of Angelica tea into your bath water. And as you sit within that bath, you can just feel it's kind of like it just attracts that energy associated with loss, and it helps you to feel better. So it's known as a grief tea. Oh, excuse me. Speaking of medicines, we were just working and bagging medicines right here. And so that's one of the reasons why you don't wear your mask all the time. Sometimes, you breathe in some of that dust. The next kind of medicine that, I think about a lot is ginseng. So if you look at the ginseng root actually looks like a person. And no matter, you can see female and you can see male, aspects to these roots. And because they resemble people, they're known to be one of the most powerful roots, that we have, because of, I guess, what they can do both negatively and positively. Excuse me, just let me grab one quick second. I just better go grab a drink really quick so that I can get rid of this cough. So just 1 second, please. Sorry for that disruption. Thank you for your patience. But yeah, so when we're looking at, the energy of the ginseng, it has the ability to help protect you against illness. It has the ability to help you attract love. They said one of the things that it works with is helping you to enhance fertility and, of course, creating a lot of abundance. So one of the ways that you use this root is simply to carry it. And when you carry it, it helps you to promote good health, and it helps you to attract money, ensure sexual potency. So as an incense, it kind of like puts this, I guess, an aura of peace and well-being. It will also help you to purify your area, and it will help to get rid of, I guess we would call it, evil spirits, or release kind of like negative spells, or, well, we call it bad medicine. And another good thing about the ginseng root is it will help make your dreams come true. So I guess the best way to use with the ginseng root, and know that these ginseng roots are very, very expensive. Um, they what you can do is you can find an attractive root, or one that you're drawn to, and then you write your deepest wish on the surface of this angelica root, and then you can place it on your altar or your sacred space for about a month. And when that month is up, so it's also good to work with the moons. So just after the full moon is when you would write this, and when you get back to the full moon, then during that time of the full moon, that's when you would throw it into the body of, I guess, water. So kind of like throw it into a moving stream, or throw it into a lake, or a river, when the night of the full moon comes. And that's one way to manifest, kind of like that magic with the ginseng plant. And I always find that really interesting. And again, it's one of those plants that there's something about it that just like makes you like that plant, or be drawn and attracted to that plant. And speaking of attraction, another beautiful plant is bergamot. So bergamot, bee balm, and I'm sure a lot of us have this in our gardens because it's, so good at attracting, it's a pollinator. And so bergamot, when you look at the flower of the bergamot, what's some of the things that it does, it helps you to attract abundance. It really helps you, like when you're in a meditative state, it helps you to go deeper into your meditation, but it also helps you to open up your visions. And so if that's not magical, and that doesn't work within that definition of magical, what is? But I mean, so there's different ways that you can work with the essence of these medicines. So with bergamot, so you'll just take some of the leaves. So as you're harvesting the leaves or picking the leaves, just kind of rub the leaves or the oil into your palms. And when you do so, it helps to attract friendship and love, and what is one of our human needs that needs to be fulfilled, or we feel at a sense of loss if we don't have like friends and love around us. So this will help to bring that essence into our lives. And also, one thing that you can do with bergamot is to make I guess, one of those little sachets. So you put the flowers into the sachet, and then you tuck it under your head as you sleep. And when you do so, it just helps you to get a really good night's sleep. So kind of like you make your little pillow out that. And the thing that you can do to bring in abundance is just take some of the leaves and tuck it into your wallet. And every now and then you can, like, kind of like rub the leaf a little bit, or the oil, and and its job when you do that, and its relationship that you've created with the medicine at that time, is to make sure you always have enough money for whatever it is that you're wanting to do. So if you want success and you want to surround yourself with protection, maybe there's, issues court issues and different things that you have. So you sprinkle some of the dried leaves around your home and your workspace. And also bergamot is one of the oils that I use a lot, and I guess, for nausea, and it's also good for stomach digestion issues. It smells so beautiful for things like pregnancy, when you that first trimester of pregnancy. It's one of those oils that will help to calm your stomach. So when you think about your stomach is affected by so many things. Your nervous system is causes you have a bundle of nerves in your stomach, and that bundle of nerves, when it gets activated, causes stomach upset, and so it helps to get rid of that the nervous tension and helps you to feel better. So bergamot, that's one that maybe you want to think about this planting season, and just try that. Just try taking some of those leaves and putting it around your space. One thing that we do that it's probably not unheard of, but we tend to tell our medicine or ask our medicine what it is that we want. So it's kind of like a little process. So you can take the medicine, and you can kind of like add prayers to your medicine. And so as you add prayers, and you're putting it around your home, it lets the medicine know what it is that you're wanting to connect to, because medicine can do many things. It's not just one or two or three things that a medicine can do. It can do many things. So rather than make the medicine think, or think, just put them prayers into that medicine, and it will really help. So another medicine that is really I guess invigorating is black cohosh. So black cohosh, sometimes if you go up Tiffany Falls in the early spring, you can see black cohosh grows abundantly, down in through that area. And so one of the things about black cohosh is it helps to invite love. It helps to give you courage. It helps protect you and your home. And one of the issues that a lot of people seem to have problems with all of the different things we have going on in life is fertility. So it's one of those medicines that is used for those things. So in order to attract love, so you would again powder down some of that. But if you mix it with rose or maybe gardenia petals and hang it in your closet, it helps to enhance your fertility. You can also add some powder into hot water, maybe put some lavender in there and put it into your bath water. And for protection, what you do is you sprinkle the powder around your home, and you can put some by the front door. And if sometimes you just need the courage to talk to someone, or courage to move forward. So just wash your hands in tea, just like, and as you're doing so, just say, oh my gosh, I've really got to do this today. Please give me the courage to do so, and so you just kind of rub your hands in that tea. Yeah, so there's so many things that you can do with these medicinal plants. Um, I guess another one that comes to mind again is blessed thistle. So anything that has thorns or spikes, one of my favorite is hawthorn. It has those big thistles. But blessed thistle, why you want to have them around your house is it helps to protect you from bad luck and harm. It brings joy into your life, and it helps to energize you. So it's always good to just like dry and carry a little sprig with you. And you're thinking, well, where am I going to put all of these medicines? How am I going to do that? Well, you can create your own little altar, like I said. And sometimes if you can't bring it with you, just having it on your altar and talking to that altar, and kind of like putting your hand over your altar every day brings the energy of these medicines to you. So you don't physically have to carry them sometimes. You can just keep them on your altar, and then you can just kind of put energy to there, and then it will follow you throughout the day. But one I guess advantage to thistle is it helps to feel you safe. It helps you to feel safe. And a lot of times you try to get ahead in this world, and you have people who are jealous of you. So this helps to keep that kind of stuff away from you, because you really don't need that into your life. You want to create that magic, and you want to create that beautiful beauty. So you just want to have like those really good feelings, like in your home and in your garden. And also sometimes people use, just that one thistle in your bouquet, believe it or not, because again, it sends and keeps away, and it creates this protection, but it repels negativity. And you really want to start your wedding or your life without a lot of negativity. Oh my goodness, I'm looking at the time, and my goodness, time just seems to move fast. So I guess, one other plant, and I know I'm a lot in the bees here, but one other plant that I really love is bloodroot. So, bloodroot's getting harder to find, but in that spring, you go up along the streams, and if you know where that bloodroot is, there's just something about it. You see it, and automatically, I remember it was one of the first medicines that I learned about, or that I knew when I would go out with our elders, and because the springtime is that special time, for harvesting, and getting that, I guess, that surge of magic into your life. It's that time of renewal, that time of magic. And so bloodroot, what I guess the spiritual elements of that would be, it helps to purify your thoughts. But more importantly, what most of us lack in our life is proper love. And so bloodroot is kind of like, it's red, and it relates to the heart, and heart is all about love. And the another good thing about bloodroot, again, is it repels negativity, but it also attracts love. And I'm not talking about always relationship love. I'm talking about the ability to understand and to feel and to know love, because it's so big. It's not just one thing. It's not. It's the reason we're here. It's the reason that we go through our life, is because we really have to know what love is. And so all our life we're learning about it in good and bad ways. And so bloodroot is that really powerful medicine. Um, and another thing about bloodroot is it helps us to be more positive, and more, I guess we would call it, proactive. So, so bloodroot then, when you cut the root, it's red. And so what you want to do is you want to take this medicine, but know that when you're using these medicines, like bloodroot is getting hard to find. And so we have a lot of endangered species that we work with, but just take a root and put it over the entrance to your house, and it will help protect your house, and it will make like nice people come into your life. And if you carry some of the root in your wallet, it will help to attract abundance, and again, that love. So it's also nice to, like, in the springtime too, you're getting ready for everything that spring is about, and it's really good to sleep with it. So when it comes up fresh, and again, use the period of the moon, so just after the full moon, again, put that bloodroot under your pillow, and at the full moon again, bury that root in your garden. And when you do this, it's going to help you start afresh. So it's going to take all of the, I guess, all of the issues that you want to get rid of, and it's going to help you. And again, it's always important to talk to these medicines. So I guess, I could go on and on and on about a lot of the other medicines that we have, but I'm just kind of giving you some ideas that we have many medicines out there that can be used in these ways to help us to improve our lives, and to bring that love and that beauty into our spaces. And creating that garden is all about putting your love and your care, so that you can feel that love and that care. And some people call that magic, and some people just call that life, because every day we're in and out of the magic of life. And life is beautiful. And sometimes we don't see that beauty, but we have to learn how to create that beauty, so that we can learn to know what that beauty is. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Helen. And again, thank you for being here today. And I hope maybe something resonated with you. So. Uh,
Oh, thanks very much, Gail. That was beautiful. That was a beautiful talk. I really enjoyed that. And it really,
mhm.
the first part really resonated with me of why it is I am so content in my garden. Why do I like going out there for some peace? And I don't mean like literal peace, like it's quiet, but just that I feel good when I'm there. Like I feel, life is good when I'm in my garden. And I'm sure
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
many of those who are on the call today feel the same way. Like what attracts you to gardening, that magic, that peace. If you do have any questions, please enter them in either the chat box at the bottom, or there's a Q&A box. You can use that. We do have one question, and you alluded to this a little bit with doing like burying the bloodroot at a certain cycle of the moon. Do you garden with the moon cycles?
Oh, yes, most definitely. There's a type of gardening called biodynamic gardening. And biodynamic gardening, they even have charts that tell you when you should and shouldn't be in your garden. So are there days when you should, go out there and do things, but there are days that you should just stay right out of your garden because it works really closely with those moon cycles. So I was introduced to biodynamic gardening years and years ago from a lady in our community who was such a beautiful gardener, and she knew all of these things. She knew about the magic of all of these plants, and she worked her gardens and she created beautiful workshops and different things. And so she was part of that biodynamic gardening, um, I guess, way of gardening, and I learned so much through that. But I really like the charts and everything that really showed you, um, according to the moons, what to do in your gardens and what not to do.
Hmm,
So,
interesting. We have another question. So we've talked a lot about positive plants and plants that bring us good energy. Are there any plants that we should avoid because they bring in negative energy?
any plant can do both, and so the thing is always our intention. So there are plants that are here specifically for, human use, and then there are things that are plants that just because they're not good for human use doesn't mean that they're not good out there for animals or birds or other species of beings. So any plant can be used both negatively and positively, but we always have to think about the energy that we're putting into our gardens. Um, because there's places that you can go and you just don't feel good, I mean, and just to stay away from those places. And people create them intentionally sometimes because that's what they want, and then there's other people who create these beautiful come and visit my garden kind of people, so yes, any plant can work both ways, I guess you could say. We just have to put our intention into it.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think if we get into a gardening situation where we come out and we're more angry than happy because the plants have maybe they're invasive and they're taking over, then something's got to change in that situation. And it's
Right.
probably the plants we
Yes.
have in there. So we need to bring in
Yes.
the ones that make us
Yes.
feel a bit better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, lots of compliments on this talk. Very inspirational, beautiful presentation, and I completely agree. We are so lucky to have you join us for Halton Garden Week and to share
Mm,
all this knowledge with us. Um,
my
Thank you
pleasure.
very much. Thank you very much.
Yes. Well, you have a great day and enjoy the rest of your garden weekend. I'm sure your gardens are going to be absolutely amazing, come spring. But just remember to put that extra care and prayer into the land because of whatever's going on with, the melting, whatever it is, the melting oil going
Yeah,
into our gardens.
very concerning.
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much for joining us, everybody who's logged on today. And at 3 o'clock, we have regenerative agriculture. So please tune in at 3 o'clock. But until then, thank you very much, Gail, and thank you very much to everybody else who is here. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye bye.